Hi, welcome to Open Education channel, and in this video we are going to see how we can connect MySQL database to any .NET Core based application using Entity Framework Core. So before starting, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe it, and if you like this video, hit on that like button, and if you have any question or suggestion or any tutorial request, put that in the comment section below. So let's start. First, I will go ahead and create a new project. So I will open Visual Studio and create a new project. So go to File, New Project. And here in this Create a New Project window, I will select Template, which is ASP.NET Core Web App, which is a MVC based template. Select this and click on Next. The project name, I will give it a name MySQL EF Core Demo, and click on Next, and then it will show you that what target framework it's going to use. I will leave it as it is and click on Create, and this will create a new ASP.NET Core MVC based project. So this is the project created by Visual Studio, and I will start with installing all the required Nuget packages in our project. So I will go ahead, right click on this project name and select Manage Nuget Packages. And here in this Nuget window, go to the Browse section and write MySQL.Entity Framework Core, and this will search all the packages matching with this name. And here you can see that the first option is MySQL.Entity Framework Core. So select this and click on this install button, and then it will ask preview changes. Click on OK, and then it will ask you for the license acceptance. Just click on I accept, and here you can see that it has successfully installed this Nuget package in our project. So now we need to add our database related things in our project. So I will add our DbContext and our entity classes, which will represent our database tables. So for that, actually I can go ahead and add that in our project directly in the root of this project, but I will go ahead and add these database related classes in a specific folder. I will use a folder named data. So to add that folder, I will go ahead and right click on this project name and select Add New Folder, and I will give it name data. Hit enter, and then right click on this data folder and select Add and then Class. So now here we will add our DbContext class. So I will give it name MyDbContext. Hit enter. Here you can see that it has created a class, public class MyDbContext. So first thing we need to do is to inherit this class from DbContext, which is provided by Entity Framework Core. So I will write colon DbContext, and you can see there's this red line. It's because it cannot find that namespace. So I will hit Control dot, and it will give a suggestion to use this namespace. Select this or hit enter. Now we need to pass our database options in this class constructor. So I will go ahead and add a new constructor. So I will write CTOR double tab, and it will create a parameterless constructor. And in this we need to pass our DbContext options as a parameter. So I will write DbContext options. So DbContext options, and it will require a type. So and that type will be our DbContext class name. So MyDbContext, and let's select this variable name as suggested options, and then we need to pass this to our parent class, which is DbContext. So I will write base options. So this options actually includes all the information which our DbContext class will use to connect to our MySQL database. So it will contain our connection string related information, and we will pass this DbContext options information from our startup.cs class, where we will register this database service. So let's go to our startup.cs class, and here inside this configure service method, I will add a DbContext service. So I will write services dot add DbContext, and it will require a type, and that type is our DbContext class. So in our case, it's my DbContext. Again, I will import that namespace by hitting Control dot and selecting this suggested namespace, which is MySQL EF core demo.data. And then inside, let's keep the options. So I will write options lambda expression options dot use MySQL. And again, we will import the namespace. So Control dot and select this Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. And inside this, here you can see that it requires a connection string as first parameter, and there is MySQL options action as the second parameter, which is by default null. So we need to provide it this connection string. So I can go ahead and provide this connection string directly here, but it's not a good practice to write our connection string hard-coded directly in the startup.cs file. These things should be configurable. So the recommended way is to put your connection string in app-settings.json file as a key value pair, and then we can access that connection string from the app-setting.json file via this configuration in our startup.cs file. Okay, so here I will go ahead and write configuration dot get connection string, and here from the IntelliSense you can see that it is saying that it's a shorthand for get section connection strings, and it requires the parameter name. So it requires there should be a key named connection strings in our app settings.json file. So I will go ahead in our app settings.json file and add that key, and here at the very top I will write connection strings, and please note that this name should be connection strings with the S. Okay, so connection strings, and its value is type of object. So inside this object we can have multiple key value pairs, so that you can use multiple databases. So in our case, actually we are using only one database, so I will just give it name default. This is the key default, and the value will be our connection string. So server is equal to localhost, and localhost because I am using the locally installed MySQL database on my machine. So if you are working in any organization or in any company, so you will need to get this information from your DB, from your database administrator. So server is localhost, then I will write user is equal to root, and again root because I'm using the locally installed database with the root user, and then the database name. So database is equal to EF core demo. So this database is not present in my machine, and when we will run migration, this database will be automatically created. Okay, then again semicolon and the password, and this is the password for our user root. So in my case it's happy MySQL @123, and this is all that you need for your connection string. But in case, say if there is any custom configuration in your organization, so you may need to put some additional values. For example, let's add port is equal to 3306, and because this is the default port number which MySQL uses, but in case in your organization your database administrator or DBA uses any other port number, you can mention it here. I am showing this just for an example. And now let's come here and put comma and save it. And now let's move to our startup.cs file, and here I will give it this name which is default, which we have just created in our app-setting.json file. Okay, let me add one more bracket and semicolon, and it's done. So here we have set up our DB options. Now come back to our DbContext class, and that options which we have set in our startup.cs file, that will be passed in this DbContext class. So our MySQL connection part is done. Now let's add our entities. So entity is just a C# class with some properties, and what happens is that when we run migration, this class becomes a table and all the properties inside this entity class becomes your column. So let's go ahead and add a new entity class. I will right click on this data folder, select add and class, and here I will give it name person. So this will be our person table, and here in this person class, let's add some properties which will become our columns. So first I will add a ID property, ID column. So I will write prop double tab, that will be integer, so tab, and that column name will be ID. So I will write this property name ID and hit enter. And the same way I will add some other properties. So prop, this will be a string, and let's give it name first name, and same way string last name, and let's add one more int age, so that will be integer type, and one more say boolean, so bool, and say let's give it name say let's name it, so just let's name it is player. It's just for showing you that how we can map any boolean type also in our database, so that we can have different data types column. So this is just for example, so that we can have different data type in our table. So bool is player. Now we need to add this entity class to our DbContext. So here in our DbContext class, I will add a new property, and the type will be dbSet, and it requires a type, so that class type is that same class person, and here's the suggested name people. So just note it that this name people, so whatever name here you will give it to this property, that will become your table name, right? In this case it's suggesting people, but I want it to name person in our database, so I will go ahead and name it person, hit enter. So our DbContext and entity part is done. Now let's run migration so that we can generate our database from our C# classes. Okay, so for that I will go to this tools menu and select Nuget package manager and select package manager console. So here we need to write commands to run our migration. So first add a migration, so I will write add dash migration, and let's name it initial. So initial, I will use capital I because this initial name will become a class. So in C# classes starts with capital letters. And here this will give us error because we have not installed a required Nuget package to generate migration. But here I am going to run it just to show you that you may get this kind of error and how you can solve this. So hit enter. The term add migration is not recognized. So for that actually we need to install a Nuget package called Microsoft Entity Framework Core.tools. So again I will go to this Nuget package manager, and in this browse section actually I will go ahead and just write Entity Framework Core, and here you can see that it's Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.tools. So let's install it, click on OK, and yeah, accept the license. And here you can see that it has successfully installed this Nuget package. So now back to our DbContext class, and in the package manager console I will run it again. So here you can see that build started, it means it's working fine. Let's wait, and here you can see that it has generated a migration, and this is the migration file, and you can see that all these commands like create table, that it will create a table named person. And here you can see that id is a type of integer, and also it's a identity column, so it will be your primary key and it will be auto incrementing. Also we have these other columns like first name, which is type of text, last name, age is type of integer, and is player is type of tiny int with display 1, and it's converted to the type bool. So it looks good, but actually it could be, in many cases it could be that you are not very happy with the by default assigned data type with entity framework core. So in that case you can change the data type also. So for example, like here is player is tiny int. Now this is a boolean value, okay, and many people store boolean value in MySQL as a bit data type, so we can change it to the bit data type. And also age is integer here, and we know that in MySQL int data type can store large number. If we see the range of int data type, you can see that it takes 4 bytes and its range is very high. And we know that a person's age can be like 100, or in most cases 110, 120, maybe, but it cannot exceed more than 3 digits. Okay, so in that case we can use tiny int, which only takes 1 byte, and its range is from minus 128 to 127, or from 0 to 255 unsigned. So this is a very perfect data type to store your age. And if you have millions of data, it will save you some space in your database. So we can use this tiny int as data type for age. And same way, this first name and last name is type of text, and in MySQL text stores large amount of text data, but first name could be like 50 characters, or last name also can be at very large 50 characters. So I will show you how you can change these data type. So come back to our DbContext class, and here I will write override on model creating, hit enter, and here I will write model builder dot entity, and this will require type. So in our case it's a person type, which is our table class type. And inside this lambda expression dot property, and then we will mention our property name or column name, so o such that o dot age. And here we can use this extension method has column type, and here we can write tiny int and just use 1. In many cases entity framework will handle the conversion of data type from your C# class to the MySQL database, but in many cases it doesn't work very well. So here I will also mention that how it will convert. So I will write dot has conversion, and it's type of short, so it's int 16, and here in the last just add a semicolon. So here we have mentioned that for age use tiny int, and the same way I will add for is player boolean field. So model builder dot entity, again person, and such that dot property, and again select that column, so o such that o dot is player, and then has column type, and this column type will be type of bit. So bit data type has only 2 possible values, either 0 or 1, so it's perfect for boolean type data. So that's done. And actually this is a bit type value, so again here we need to instruct entity framework core how it will convert 0 or 1 into C# boolean value. So Again, I will write that has conversion, but the extension method doesn't have any particular order, so you can go ahead and add it before that has column type also. For example, I will come here and write dot has conversion, and then, so actually we are going to use explicit conversion, so I will write new bool to 0 1 converter, and again I will hit control dot to get the required namespace. So in this case it's Microsoft Entity Framework Core .storage .value conversion. Then the type which it will convert it is the short, or the short is integer 16, so you can go ahead and write int 16, and that's done. So here we have instructed ef core to use bit for is player and tinyInt1 for age value. Now let's change the data types for first name and last name, and we can go ahead and add it right from here also, but I will also show you how you can use data annotation to change the column type. So I will go to this person class, and here before this first name property I will add a attribute max length and control dot to import the namespace, which in this case is component model dot data annotation, and here you can see that it requires a length, so I will give it length 50, and the same way I will copy this and put it. So our first name and last name will have 50 characters length. So now in this case it will change it to varchar. Okay, so save it, come back to our DbContext class, and let me open this initial migration, and here you can see that all these old data types which it had generated. Now I will go ahead and select all these migration files and delete it so that we can run it again. So I will go to the package manager console and run that command again. And here in this newly generated migration file you can see that it has assigned varchar 50 to our first name and last name, and for age it's using tinyInt1, and for its player it's using bit data type. So let me show you MySQL workbench. So here you can see that there are only 4 database, and now I will run command to generate our database. So I will write update dash database, hit enter, and here you can see that it's showing done. And if I come back to MySQL workbench, refresh it, and here you can see that we have ef core demo, and inside the tables we have entity framework migration history and our person class. So let me see the data. So it's blank right now, and if we see the structure of our table, so here you can see in the DDL it's ID, first name, last name, age, and is player with the appropriate data type. Okay, and this table is blank. So let me insert some data. So I will write John, JHON, Doe, age 21, and is player 1, and let me add another record. So JHON John, or you can write JOHN, whatever you like, and last name Doe 2, and age is 12, and it's not player, so 0, and I will hit apply, and let me check that. Okay, yeah, it has added B. Let me clean this and hit apply, finish. So here you can see that it has records with ID 1 and 2. Now let's add some code to fetch the data from the database and show it on our UI. So for that I will go to the home controller, and first of all I will add our DbContext here, So private read only MyDbContext control dot to import the namespace, and I will give it name underscore context, and then in this constructor I will add new parameter MyDbContext, and here inside this I will write context underscore context is equal to context semicolon. Okay, so here we are injecting our MyDbContext into our controller. Okay, now let's move to our index method, and here I will write var people, and we will select everything from our person table. So underscore context dot person dot to list, so it will get everything in our person table. You can also add like conditional statements like where if x such that x dot id is equal to some id here, but actually we will go ahead and get everything from our person table. And now let's pass this people to our view. So view people. Now let's move to our views folder. So views, home, and in the index page I will first write a heading, so h2 people, and here I will add a table. So in this table we will show all the people. We will use bootstrap class table border, and then the t head, and inside there will be one tr for the heading, so th id, and let's copy and paste this 4 times. So first will be first name, and then last name, and then age, and is player. So this is our table heading, and let's move to our table body. So t body, and inside this we will use for each loop to show each record from our database as a table row. So @for each double tab for item in collection, so we will use model with capital M model, and that model is which we passed in our view. So and currently it's not aware of its type, so let's mention here at the top @model with the small m, and it's a list of person, and so I will need to write the full namespace here. So MySQL EF4 demo.data.person. Okay, and now here inside this for each method I will write tr for the table row, and inside this tr I will add td as a column, td, and @id @item.id. So you can now you'll get the IntelliSense, and again copy this line 4 more times. So Control C, Control V, item.first name, item.last name, item.age, and item.is player. And for the player actually we will show yes or no. Let's add a bracket here in the starting, and then question mark yes, and colon no, and then this closing bracket. So our view is done. Let me reformat it. So I will select Control A, Control K, F. So now it's formatted. Let's save it. So now let me show you one more time the database records. So here are 2 records, and now let's run this. So I will hit on this IIS Express, and here you can see that it's showing 2 records with ID 1 and 2. So John Doe age 1 is player, yes. John Doe 2 age 1 is player? No. And here it's a strange thing that this age is showing 1. Okay, but I remember that we gave the age, the first one as 21 and the second one as 12. Then why it's showing the age as 1? And the reason is that here in this age data type we have mentioned tiny int 1 in the bracket, and that 1 denotes that display. Okay, so it's just showing the one place display, but when we saved that record in MySQL database, it was not giving any error. So that data is perfectly stored in our database, but it's because of that display value field it's showing us this 1. So I will go back to our MyDbContext class here, and instead of 1 I will change it to the 3, and again we will run a migration, and this time I will give it another name. So I will write add dash migration, and let's give it name tiny int length fix. So this is a perfect example. If you had by mistake did something wrong during your initial planning of your database, how you can change it later and run the migration again to fix that. Okay, so I will hit enter, and here I have some typo. I will fix that. Add migration and hit enter, and here you can see that it's giving us this warning in yellow that an operation was folded that may result in the loss of data, because we are changing the data type, but as we know that we are just changing the display number. And here you can see in this generated migration it's showing type as tiny int 3. So let's update our database. So update dash database, hit enter, and now it's done. And now let's verify again our database in MySQL Workbench. Perfect, it's showing us 2 records with age 21 and 12. And now run it again, and here you can see that now it's showing that age column correctly with the age 21 and 12. So this is how you can connect and fetch data from the MySQL database in your .NET Core based application using Entity Framework Core. So if you like this video, hit that like button, and if you have not subscribed to this channel, subscribe it. And if you have any question, again put that in the comment section, and I will meet you next time with any other tutorial. Till then, thank you, take care.